Father was depressed during the Depression years because his mother had died. And then my grandfather, by the time he began to regroup and reinvent himself, it was time to find a mother for the boys. And that's when he asked Helene Rosson, who had been married herself and divorced, to join him. And he appealed to her over and over. He wrote letters, he sent telegrams, he begged her to come to the East Coast and marry him. And her mother, it was her mother, my grandmother Birdie's mother, who interceded and said, "You really have to put this man out of his agony and at least go see him." And when she went to see him, he'd sent tickets, a train ticket. I don't know if it was two-way, it probably was a one-way ticket to New York City. So she arrived in Central Station, was met by my grandfather, who was driving, I believe it was a Pierce Arrow, a brand new Pierce Arrow, and that was her arrival gift. And then he proposed again. And I don't know if there was much turnaround time. They married, and my grandmother, Birdie, raised the baby, and my father was sent to boarding school. And there was no love lost between Birdie and my father. Seeing her, the proximity between my home in New Jersey and her one home in New York City, at the 72nd Street apartment, and her second home in Hewlett, Long Island, that was easier than seeing her in Palm Beach, Florida, which was her third home. The third home was the one that I seemed to find myself visiting by myself. I don't think our family ever made a collective visit. I was one of 4 children. I also remember being sent there if I was sick, which I seem to have often been. And my mother was a Christian Scientist, so I wouldn't go to the doctor. I'd be flown to Florida to recover. And so I was there alone with my grandparents relatively frequently. And what I'd find there was a kind of magic that had nothing to do with my reality. I lived in a house in pre-suburban America, a brand new house on a dirt road on a farmer's field, but it belonged to a farmer. He sold the property, so I was in the first initial beginning of subdivisions in South New Jersey. So to get in a plane, often with my grandfather. My father would take me up to Long Island, and I'd be parked there and then fly with my grandfather from what was then called Idlewild Airport, which is now JFK,